John D. Rockefeller, the oil magnate that is widely considered as the richest American of all time, with an approximate net worth of around $400 billion in today's money. John D. Rockefeller is considered to be the richest man to ever walk the planet, even after giving a substantial amount of his fortune away, and yet he started from very humble beginnings. He was born into a large family with a father who was frequently absent and was regarded as a conman who sold worthless potions. So, from a young age, John was to help provide for the family, and so he took on odd jobs like looking after the neighbors' turkeys or selling potatoes and even candy. Even though these things didn't pay a lot, John was really good at them and he worked very hard. And so he was able to save enough money to start offering small loans to other people. So even as a young boy, that entrepreneurial instinct was still there. But when he turned 16, he dropped out of school and he got his first real job as a bookkeeper, earning just 50 cents a day. However, after working there for around 2 years, his employees still refused to give him a meaningful raise, and so he decided to start his own produce business as he had a goal of making $100,000 and he knew that he will need to build something of his own just to reach that target. Luckily, that first job had already taught him a lot and it gave him the experience, connections, and reputation to raise $4,000 for starting his own venture, a business of selling goods like meat, hay, and grain, which did well. In the first year of trading, it made almost $500,000. Of course, Rockefeller didn't keep all of that. A lot of it went back into business expenses and loans, but it meant that when a big opportunity arose, he now had some real money to invest, and that opportunity was oil. And in 1859, the first American oil well was discovered, which began the Pennsylvania oil rush. However, Rockefeller realized that whilst most people were trying to get rich from drilling oil, the bigger profits were actually in oil refinery. So, at just 24 years old, he used the money from his first business to build up an oil refinery. Now, around this time, he met a man named Henry Flagler who was interested in investing in his business, and so together they incorporated the Standard Oil Company and they began the process of buying out all the smaller nearby oil refineries that were in competition with them. Whenever any of these refineries refused to sell their oil to him, he simply started selling his oil at a loss so that their customers could flock to him instead, which will put these smaller companies out of business. These kind of practices allowed the Standard Oil Company to keep expanding across the entire country. They kept buying out rivals, undercutting competitors, and cutting costs wherever possible. The more they grew, the more negotiating power they had, so they could push for better rates and prices and discounts on everything. Rockefeller was also known for some shady secret deals, and so, with all of these factors combined, by the 1870s, Rockefeller's oil company owned 90% of the world's oil refining industry. He also hired the owners of the oil refineries he bought as a board of trustees, which meant that all the smartest oil experts were all working within one super company. With Rockefeller at the head of it, he owned 20,000 oil wells, he had over 100,000 employees, and at the VAT peak, some estimate its total value will today have been worth almost $1 trillion. This kind of empire was pretty unheard of, but Rockefeller wasn't done yet. At this point, the two biggest industries were oil and railroads. So Rockefeller set out to do a similar thing that he had just done with oil, but now he was to do it with railroads. However, as he began monopolizing another industry, he also began to become a bit of a public enemy. He was depicted as the ultimate symbol of corporate greed and cruelty. In response to Rockefeller's ever-growing empire, legislation was passed to try and prevent this kind of monopolies. In particular, the Sherman Antitrust Act was passed, which would lead to the breakup of Standard Oil into different subsidiaries. Except, over time, many of these subsidiaries will simply merge back together and are still around up to this day, such as BP and even Chevron. And since Rockefeller kept his share in all of these companies, even after they got split up, it meant that at the time of his death, he was still the richest person in the world, and likely the richest self-made man in all of modern history. Now, what should we actually think about John D. Rockefeller? On the one hand, he made oil an affordable commodity and brought it to the masses. He went from nothing to building a business empire that may never be matched again. He gave around $540 million to charitable causes, which when you adjust for inflation, it makes him to be one of the most accomplished philanthropists ever. However, on the other hand, Rockefeller was a greedy, ruthless tyrant of business who sometimes bullied, extorted, and even exploited others on his merciless path to dominance, especially the tactics used to crush the competition. Some biographers argue that his good side was every bit as good as his bad side was bad. Seldom has history produced such a contradictory figure. However, what's undeniable is he will always be remembered for his insanely vast fortune and the impact that he had.